Hello and welcome to my channel, friends. This is your Govindraj. Thank you very much for all your views, subscriptions, and also your valid comments. Thank you very much. And in this video, we are going to discuss the implications and compliance requirements because of the changes which are brought in the Industrial Relations Code 2020, and we are going to look at especially the implications for employers. And in the previous videos we talked about key changes in Industrial Relations Code 2020, and thank you very much. Today this video has been watched by more than 5000 people, and we also talked about the Industrial Relations Code from the trade union perspective, and we also talked about what are the provisions which are related to trade union and their agitations. And in this video we are going to discuss the implications and compliance requirements for employers. So let's proceed, friends. So as I said, there are certain changes which definitely have a implications and compliance requirement for employers, and one of such is the possibility of enforcing the works committee. So this provision was also available in Industrial Dispute Act 1947, and the same concept has been brought to the Code on Industrial Relations or Industrial Relations Code 2020. So if this provision is brought into enforcement, and the procedure related to works committee should be regulated by the works committee, and there is all possibility that the employer is required to frame the policy framework and procedure for the implementation of this works committee and its process. And of course this is not a default provision. This is only enforceable when the appropriate government require the employer to constitute works committee by a general or special order. So another important change which I am going to discuss here is, friends, now the implementation of grievance redressal committee. Of course this provision was also available in Industrial Dispute Act 1947, and the same concept is now imported to the Code on Wages, of course with radical changes, because now the law wants to provide a definite machinery for the redressal of individual grievances. And because of the provisions which are brought, if the grievance redressal committee is not able to address this, then the employee will have a possibility to go to the conciliation and also the adjudication machinery. So therefore this, in all probability, grievance redressal committee is going to come into force, which in the Industrial Dispute Act 1947, even though that provision was there, it has not been enforced and there were no rules. And now we will see that this grievance redressal committee is going to get enforced because of the intention of the law. So therefore all employers have to be prepared to implement this grievance redressal committee, and there is a detailed procedure or process is required for the employers to develop because of the individual grievances which are going to get addressed in this committee, and principles of natural justice, all this have to be followed. So therefore the employer all have to be prepared for implementation of grievance redressal committee. And one more change which is also I talked about in the previous videos, so far in India there is no central legislations which is giving or talking about recognition to registered trade union or any constitution of negotiating council. So now, because this demand was there for very long time, now the code mandates that the registered trade union, if exists in the establishment, has to be mandatorily recognized. In case of multiple unions, the provisions are brought for constitution of negotiating council. And if you look at what's happening today, some of the employers were not recognizing, there were a lot of fights between them, so these were all there. So now this is going to end, and employers have to be prepared for this change to come. And going ahead, friends, the next one is, there is a provision called Constitution of Workers Reskilling Fund. So in case of retrenchment, the employer is required to pay additional 15 days wages it is not for every year, but it is only one payment, 15 days wages in case of every retrenched employee. This is required to be paid to workers reskilling fund, and that money gets transferred to worker again for reskilling his skills. So therefore, this is also one of the additional financial burden in the hands of employer. Now the next one is more and more industrial activities gets covered because the industry definition has gone through a change, and because of the BWSSP and Rajappa case, the Industrial Dispute Act 1947 was amended with the new industry definition, but that definition did not take off. Now certain portion which was available in that case law, now it is imported for industry definition. And another change and implication is the definition of wages. On this definition of wages, we have already seriously talked about it, and there will be an inclusion part and exclusion part, and also because of that proviso, now the portion of which is the wage component or the first portion is going to increase, and definitely that will have an implication of payments under the Industrial Relations Code, which are basically for retrenchment compensation, closure compensation, and also all these related payments. So therefore, if you want to know what is this wage definition and other things, there is a video available, you can already watch and understand. And if you still have any confusion, you can always come back to me. My coordinates are provided at the end. Another change which I see, friends, so far the law was silent, or there was no provisions to provide the facilities for trade union or negotiating council. If you look at how in the European countries there is a workers council concept, and there is a full-time worker council member which he is not required to do any employment or any works of the establishment. His work is only dedicated to workers council or trade union. And also if you look at the European countries, he has got, or the trade union members have got certain facilities including the computer and stationery and time off. All these things were available. Now the same concept has been brought into the code. However, the code does not talk about what facilities needs to be provided to the trade union and trade union members. Now that is left to the appropriate government or to be prescribed in the rules. So if you look at the central rules is silent about it. However, in the future these things may get prescribed, and all employers have to be prepared for this. And we have been also talking on this topic, and the employers are refusing these benefits, but because of this change, and if the government prescribes this, then it becomes mandatory for employers to provide facilities for trade union. So now friends, there is another important change, which is basically the completion of disciplinary proceedings. So far the law, there is no provision which is related to completion of disciplinary proceedings, especially the time limit for completion of disciplinary proceedings. In one of the apex court judgment, the Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court fixed this 90 days period for completion of disciplinary proceedings. The same concept has been now brought into the code. Now the code says that the disciplinary proceedings, including the preliminary investigations, are required to be completed ordinarily within 90 days. Of course, this is not very mandatory or compulsory, but however it says ordinarily it should be completed within 90 days. So the employers have to be careful about it, and also try to conclude the disciplinary proceedings within 90 days. And also friends, look at these offenses and offenses which are classified for violations of the provisions of the code. And if you look at the text of the code, there are increased penalty for offenses from 10,000 to 2 lakhs. Of course, there is a possibility for compounding or composition, but there is a heavy penalty is provided. So this is also one of the implications on the employers if they get into any violations. There is another important provision which bars the jurisdiction of civil courts. So when you read this provision, it also gives a clarification or doubt in your mind that is the rights of the employer to get injunction order from the civil court against the trade union and workers, is it going to change? So I am not going to give you answer because I have certain interpretation. If you want to know my interpretation, you can always get in touch with me. I have provided my coordinates in this video. You can get in touch with me if you want to have answers for this. So friends, thank you very much. These are my coordinates. So if you have any clarifications, please get in touch with me. I'll be happy to answer your clarification. So thank you very much for watching my video, friends, and please do share this video and also put your comments, and also don't forget to like, and please subscribe this channel if you have not done so far. Thank you very much and see you soon, friends.